Hi, I'm Faraz Khan from iTrack Recruitment, and welcome to the Low Code Podcast, where we're dedicated to increasing awareness and appreciation of the power of low code. In this podcast, we'll hear from developers about their career journeys and how low code has enabled them to achieve new levels of success and innovation. So let's go. Hi Ryan, how are you?
I'm good, Faraz. I'm really good. How are you?
Thanks for yeah, I'm good, thank you. Thanks for
Yeah.
agreeing to take part in the podcast.
No, I have to. I have to represent Mendix. You're very
Yeah.
OutSystems oriented, so I have to step in.
Yeah, I've been connected to you for a while on LinkedIn, so I thought when I knew we were going to expand the
Yeah.
podcast to other platforms, I thought I definitely need to get this guy on as a guest. So it's a pleasure to have you on. So thank you.
Yeah, it's strange. People find me on social media and that, and they think
Mm.
I have like real power within the company, but I'm just in the marketing org. I just make videos and stuff.
Yeah,
They're
but
like, "Hey, do you want
yeah,
to talk about a strategic alliance?" And I'm like, "That sounds great, but I can't help you."
I'm not your guy. Yeah, but at least your stuff that shows what you're doing in your role is getting out to the right people.
Well, I
There are
hope it is.
people kind of
Otherwise, I've just been spending 3 years shouting into the void.
That's amazing. So,
Yeah.
do you want to start off by just giving us a bit of a background to
Yeah,
yourself?
sure. Yeah, so I'm Ryan Mocke. Look at the camera. Sorry. You'd think I'd be more experienced with that. So I'm Ryan Mocke. I'm originally from South Africa. I now live in London, UK, in near Canary Wharf. I've been a Mendix developer since 2014. December 2014 is when I started my internship at STS, Software Testing Solutions. They're really great. They were all Mendix all the way. So the day I joined, I was like, what the hell is this? I've no idea what this Mendix is. I
Yeah,
was fresh
yeah,
out of university off
yeah,
of a programming diploma.
mm,
So it was like my first job. And then I
yeah,
was like, I had grinded my whole way through uni and then like failed SQL multiple times and like Java I had to redo. And then I was so
yeah,
proud that I finally graduated. And then they were like,
yeah,
forget all of that. Here's some low code.
yeah. The last few years have been a waste.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
I mean, at least the interview was a breeze because they gave me
yeah,
all of the serious programming sort of
mm,
questions like number patterns, design an
yeah,
algorithm, all of that. Like, and I breezed through it, and they were like, "Yeah, you're great. We want you." And then they
yeah.
were like, "Now all of that stuff we tested you on, you're not going to do that. You're gonna do bug fixes on microflows
Yeah.
for 2 years."
Wow. Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, but after so STS was primarily a testing solutions company. So they contracted testers out, but they had their own internal apps
Mm,
and mostly like e-commerce platforms.
yeah.
So we built those. I was part of their R&D
Mm,
department. So we built them, maintained them. And then after about 2 years, I finished my internship with them. I'd paid my debt and all that.
mm,
Um, and then I moved on to insurance. So I worked for
yeah.
Telesure Investment
Mm,
Holdings,
mm,
which is like a really big insurance conglomerate. They actually own like all the insurance companies in South Africa.
okay.
And then you
Yeah.
you work in one building, but there's like 12 different insurance brands within the building. So
Yeah.
you move
Yeah.
between the departments and all that kind of
Okay.
stuff. The brand I work for, I think, is actually here as well, which is Dial Direct
Okay.
and Auto in general. I'm not sure if those are here or very common, but
Mm,
I do believe we had a UK branch. So I think
branch.
somebody
Yeah. Yeah.
mentioned.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, I did another 2 years there. And around 2017, 2018, I started immigrating to the UK, where I
Mm-hmm,
joined Capgemini.
mm-hmm,
And Capgemini was great. I was a consultant there as a Mendix dev, and they sent me around Europe for a while. So I went to Holland, I went to spent some time in France, like all those countries. It was
yeah.
really
Yeah.
fun. But yeah, it got exhausting. So all those
Yeah.
flights, because I was living in the UK, but I
Yeah.
was working in Holland. So I would basically just fly back to London for the weekends and do laundry.
Yeah.
And then eventually it's like I had a flight that was like delayed for like 4 hours, and I was sitting in an airport in
Yeah.
Gatwick Airport, and I was like, talking to my manager, like, hey, I can't do this. Can you find me
Yeah, I'm
more
done. Yeah, yeah.
a more permanent position? And then at that time, Mendix reached out as well. So I was stationed at Chubb Insurance for a while. I
Yeah.
mentioned before we started
Yes.
recording.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and so I was overseeing some development projects there.
Mm.
And so the way Chubb works is the contractors build the apps and then you hand them off to the in-house devs to deploy and maintain
Yeah.
them. So it's
Yeah.
very strict code review and
Yeah.
all that,
Yeah. Yeah.
like very like high stakes and all that. And then I went to Mendix and it was just a totally different atmosphere because like
Yeah.
I've been insurance and like banking and like all that kind of serious stuff. And then Mendix is just like fun.
Yeah.
I can't
That's good.
explain it any other
Yeah.
way. Everyone's happy, everyone's nice
Yeah.
to meet you, and like
Yeah.
it's just everyone's so open. It's especially I went to America 2 weeks
Mm.
ago,
Yeah.
and it was a really just insane time. Like we spent
Yeah.
more time drinking and getting than anything else.
That's a good business trip then.
Yeah. And I mean, Boston was like beautiful weather, so everyone
Yeah.
was. We were getting lunches outside, and
Yeah.
we played pickleball with the whole like department. I
Nice.
don't know if you know what pickleball is.
I've heard of it. I've heard of it before. Yeah.
It's like a slightly bigger version of table tennis.
Ah,
Like
okay.
table tennis, but on a court. Like
Oh, cool. Okay. Yeah, that
yeah.
sounds very interesting.
Or I should say more like tennis. I don't know why I went to
Table tennis. Yeah, yeah.
But it's like a dialed down version, but everyone was like drinking pitchers of beer, like very American style, and
Yeah, 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 yeah.
the Dutch people were giving it their all on the court.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, very competitive. Yeah.
No, it was a very fun time. It was good to meet the Americans in person because I mean I've been to the Rotterdam branch a
Yeah.
bunch, but the
Mm.
Americans I've only spoken to over video calls like
Yeah,
this.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
especially members of my team. I have two members in my direct team
Mm, mm.
who I'd never met before. So like in person.
Yeah,
So it was
yeah.
a bit like meeting an internet date or something like that first.
Yeah.
But afterwards it was
No,
so much
no
fun.
awkwardness though, right?
Yeah. No, everyone's so like interesting. It was great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's amazing. Well, I think you maybe brought some weather back with you then, which is great.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
because I think we spoke before you left and it was miserable weather.
Yeah. No, it was
Yeah.
really depressing the last few weeks. And then it got quite sunny now recently.
Yeah,
Finally.
yeah, so it's nice. So yeah, so just rewinding back to kind of, when you started the internship and things like that, when you kind of graduated, did you kind of have, you said you'd done all these technologies in university. Was there one that you kind of enjoyed where you thought, I wouldn't mind working as Java
Yeah.
or, whatever?
Yeah. So the one I enjoyed the most was web, and it's sort
Yeah.
of where I ended up, just in a low code way. So
Mm.
yeah, my HTML and my JavaScript courses were my favorite, and we
Okay.
did PHP as well, but PHP is a bit old for me.
Yeah, yeah,
It just didn't
yeah.
resonate. I was like, this is so like tedious, like echo this, echo that, and I was like, it's not for
Yeah,
me.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
So when you interviewed with this role, I'm assuming that was the first time you'd heard of Mendix. You're probably saying, "Man, what?" Or
I'd never heard of it before. I mean, at that stage, I think it was Mendix 4 out.
Mm.
So, I mean, I think Mendix had only been out for a few years.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
was really unheard. I had heard of like there were some other like WordPress and Wix,
yeah,
like those sort of things existed, but
yeah,
Mendix, I hadn't even heard of like any other low code really. Like
yeah,
it
yeah,
was,
yeah,
I was like, wait, what's this?
yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
Because I'm assuming at that time, yeah, they, especially probably in South Africa, there wouldn't be that many companies probably using Mendix or low code in general.
Yeah, well, I mean, there was a few at that stage,
Mm.
but so Mendix originally had I believe they had a South African like branch division,
Okay.
and then they decided like strategically to remove and let local people do that
Yeah.
sort of stuff for them, like
Mm, mm.
so my friend actually had been working for Mendix, and then he stopped and he worked for another company, but then he sort of let me know about it, so
Mm, mm,
sort of
mm.
introduced me to it. And he worked at STS before me
Okay.
as a Mendix consultant.
Okay.
And basically, I would work on these projects, and then I would see his name in the documentation, and then when I moved to Telesure, he was there, and he actually ended up
Oh
mentoring.
wow.
And then yeah, so I
That's
actually,
cool.
in a non-weird way, I kind of followed him around, just
Mm.
because it was like the best path, for both
Yeah,
of
yeah.
us. So like
Yeah,
he
yeah,
moved,
yeah.
he went to Telesure, I went there, and then I was his junior, and
Yeah.
then he moved to Cap, and then I also moved there, but I didn't work with him there.
Ah, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
because we were
Mm.
consulting, so we got sent all
Yeah.
over.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
then also he's moved to Mendix right before I did.
Wow. So Mendix should be hoping he's not going to move on anytime soon then.
No, yeah. Well, yeah, he's the canary in the coal mine, I
So,
guess.
so did he come to the UK as well then?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So you
Ah,
might
cool.
actually know him. He's a solutions evangelist, Alistair Crawford.
Oh, yeah,
Um,
I've heard the name. Yeah, I've heard the
yeah,
name.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
He's tight with the solutions evangelists. They're a
yeah,
cool gang of guys as well.
yeah,
Well, not all guys, I should say.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
for me, guys is
Yeah,
unisex, you
everybody. Yeah, of
know.
course. Yeah. No, I know, I
Yeah.
understand. And what kind of because one thing kind of as a recruitment company, relocation these days is not a big thing. With
Yeah,
remote
it's not a big
working,
deal.
what kind of I know you've got a connection to the UK, but what kind of made you think, okay, I'm ready to move to the UK?
Well, my mom was here. She was staying in
Mm.
Scotland, and that's
Yeah,
how I got here so easily because I had
yeah,
ancestral
yeah,
citizenship. So we
yeah.
got my passport. I actually had some trouble with that in the beginning with the
Mm,
immigration. The
mm.
passports. I needed my birth certificate, and we couldn't. It got lost,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and then I couldn't finalize my like citizenship before I got it. So I had to sit on my mom's couch for 6 months and just live with my savings and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
feel like a teenager again.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'll never forget when I got that passport, how quickly we made it to London after that. We were there
Yeah, yeah,
like two
yeah.
days later
Yeah,
to
yeah.
start work. But yeah, that was a rough 6 months.
Mm.
And then she's moved on, so she's moved to Canada, so she's not
Oh,
in
nice.
um, Scotland anymore. So I moved
Mm,
to London and that sort of thing.
mm. Yeah.
Especially at that time, I was traveling so much, I didn't have like a
Mm.
permanent residence.
Yeah, 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 sure.
So it was good to like pit stop at her and then go back to work,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then she would
yeah,
do my
yeah.
laundry.
Yeah. I think a lot of people rely on their mums for the laundry for sure.
Yeah, yeah, that
And
was great.
when you came over here, obviously you decided, okay, my mum's there. Had you already kind of researched Mendix opportunities in the UK, just so you knew? Obviously, you've now built this career in Mendix. Kind of your research beforehand. Okay, what's the market like? What kind of jobs are there? Things like that.
Yeah, so I already had a position at Capgem before I came over. So
Ah, nice. Okay.
I was talking to a gentleman there, Sanjay,
Mm,
Sanjay Goshi, I believe,
mm.
probably butchering that name. But so I spoke to him for a while, and then I got the position. And then after I
Mm,
had signed a contract already, I started moving. But
mm.
like I said, I jumped the gun because I didn't have my
Yeah,
documentation
yeah,
sorted.
yeah, yeah,
And I was like, I committed to a date, and then because we rushed it, it just didn't
yeah.
work out, you know?
Didn't work. Yeah, 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 yeah. Well, it's good that it worked out in the end and didn't affect the opportunity or anything like that.
Yeah, and I mean, to Capgemini's credit, they were amazing. Like they held my position for the 6 months because I wasn't legally allowed to work in the country until I
Mm,
got my passport.
yeah, yeah.
So I just had to sit around, and I remember calling them saying like, I'm so sorry. I guess I'll reapply in like 6 months or
Yeah,
whenever.
yeah, yeah,
They were
yeah.
like, no, don't worry. You'll join when you
That's
join.
really
Like,
good. Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
That is really good. That's really
yeah.
good. And when you kind of moved over to Mendix, did you kind of they approached you obviously for the role, was it?
No, so I was so in South Africa, I had a
Mm,
connection.
mm,
Well, I had a CSM from Mendix,
mm, mm,
um, Jan Nooit gedacht.
mm.
So when I was working at Telesure Investment Holdings, he was the customer. I think it's satisfaction manager or
Yeah,
something.
yeah,
So
yeah,
many
yeah, yeah.
acronyms. Yeah.
They've all
So
got different. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
if we had a Mendix issue like beyond support, if we wanted to discuss like new licenses or anything like that, we would
Mm,
contact him.
mm,
And then when I was in uh, Holland the one day, he was like,
mm.
he contacted me and he was like, "Hey, are you the same Ryan from Telesure?" And I was like,
Yeah,
"Yeah,
yeah,
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 yeah. I've
yeah,
moved
yeah.
over here." And he's like, "Oh, I'm the CSM for your new client.
Yeah.
So he was like, small world. And then he was like, come
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
dinner. So I went to dinner in Rotterdam with him. He took me for some beer and some bitterballen.
Nice. Yeah.
And we walked around the Mendix office at like 8 at night and
Oh,
took all
wow.
the selfies. And then I was like, you know what? I think I want to work here. And then he was like, I'll
Yeah.
put your name in, and he really
Yeah.
did. He followed through, and
Yeah. Yeah.
that's how I got into Mendix. Basically,
Yeah.
it was a
Yeah.
rough deal.
Yeah.
I had to do 4
Yeah.
interviews for Mendix.
Wow. Wow. Okay. Well, at least like, like I said before, you're there now and it's really fun. Can you kind of tell us a bit about the culture at Mendix and what it's like, since you've
Yeah,
joined?
yeah. Well, I mean, Mendix is very very, I almost want to say, radical in our structures, because we're very like flat. You can walk into anyone's office, like I was telling you before.
Yeah.
You can
Yeah.
walk
Yeah.
into Tim's office, the CEO,
Yeah.
and if your idea is good, you can give it to him, and it will become a reality. Like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
very infectious as well, because the American office is exactly like that as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I was sharing drinks with my the head of the department, Cheryl.
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
it was so funny, because it's like all these important people that you
Yeah.
think, oh, they must be serious, and then they're partying. Great time.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's great. And
Yeah.
your role at Mendix now, obviously you're not client based. Can you tell us a bit more, about your role, kind of the message you're trying to get out?
Well, my role, I see it. Well, for me, I do have a client in my mind, and
Yeah.
the client is the user, the
Yeah,
developers
yeah,
using our
yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
Particularly focus on like newbies, like guys who are
Mm,
joining our platform for the first time,
yeah,
and I just try and guide them into how to get upskilled. Here's some useful
yeah,
tricks. I
yeah.
know I'm not an expert myself. I don't even have my expert certification.
Mm,
That's all
mm.
story.
Yeah, yeah.
um, but yeah, I just try and get people started, and I try and get people introduced and sharing ideas. And if
Mm.
someone reaches out to me for advice or guidance, people can book like sessions with me for
Okay, cool.
um, like how do I do this, or I
Mm.
have this weird bug that I have no idea. Even if I don't know, I put them in touch with someone who can,
Yeah,
or
yeah, yeah, yeah.
show them how to use support and that kind of
Mm.
stuff.
Yeah. Is that the Hello Mendex videos you do, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
it's well, I have so many series now.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true.
And
Yeah.
they drop off and they pick up again, and it's
Yeah.
because it's also it's a bit of a load balancing thing, because I also run the blog as well, and
Yeah.
I also deal with the community a lot. So like I spend a
Yeah.
lot of time talking to people and sort of organizing content. I mean,
Mm.
there's other stuff to it, but I'd say the blogs and my videos are my biggest responsibilities.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And in the UK, how have you found, obviously, I think as a whole, low code is gaining momentum, but I still think there's a lot of people who don't know about it. UK, we find, you know, hot and cold compared to, Netherlands. I think everybody knows what low code is and they know several platforms. How have
Yeah.
you found the UK in that on that side?
Yeah, well, I mean, like you say, in Holland, I mean, you tell someone you work for Mendix, and they're like,
Yeah,
"Wow!" It's like
yeah,
mentioning
yeah,
you
yeah,
work for Google kind of thing.
yeah, 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 yeah.
But here, yeah, it's a bit more low key. I mean, I met an OutSystems guy who was in their like sales team, and I mentioned I
Mm.
worked for Mendix, and he didn't even know what Mendix was. And I was like,
Ah,
"You're our like number one." And
yeah,
maybe it was
yeah, yeah.
like playing it cool, like, "What's that?"
Yeah, yeah. Who are you? Yeah, never heard of you.
But yeah, it's different.
Yeah,
Especially, I notice it's really taking off in the bigger companies, like Chubb, who I used to work
yeah.
for, and all that kind of stuff. I mean, Chubb has put out, I think they did like 50 apps in a year, a
Mm,
few years back. So like that was just one year. So they're really like deploying massively, and we have so many partners in that who are joining now lately, that
mm.
it's getting a bit exponential. Like the
Yeah, yeah,
demand for
yeah.
Mendix developers is our
Mm.
biggest issue.
Yeah, yeah,
It's like
yeah,
getting people trained up and certified and all that kind of stuff,
yeah.
at a level you can ensure.
Mm, mm.
Um, yeah,
And
it's
you said you obviously a lot of your videos kind of target to newbies and things like that. Do you feel like the Mendix developer pool in the UK is growing, or it's more um what I mean is like, is it more kind of juniors coming into Mendix, or are you finding there are people coming from traditional backgrounds who are more willing to switch over to Mendix as kind of low code gains more traction?
Yeah, well, I mean, I've worked with, I mean, yeah, predominantly most of the new people joining are like young millennials and Gen
Yeah,
Z now.
yeah,
And
yeah.
we have university programs. So a lot of people get
Nice.
trained in university how to use
Yeah,
Mendix. And then
yeah.
we try and recruit them basically.
Yeah, 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 yeah. That's the best way to do it,
Or
isn't
we
it?
actually,
Yeah.
if you're a student looking for a job, there's a new job board. Just Google
Oh,
Mendix
nice.
job board, you'll find it.
Oh, great. That's good. That's really good. And
Yeah,
that is that UK or is that global?
I think it's global. I
Global,
think
okay.
any partner can sort of. I think it was set up specifically for one partner, and we just
Mhm.
expanded it to all.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, but yeah,
yeah.
so there is that. But I mean, I also when I was at Capgemini, working for clients, I had a junior who was 54 years old, and then I was like 25 at the
You
time.
didn't call him Junior, did you?
No. I mean, his technical position
Yeah,
was
yeah, yeah,
senior
of course. Yeah,
because he had been working as a developer and then
yeah,
Capgemini
yeah,
purchased his smaller company and he
yeah,
sort of assimilated into their Mendix team.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So he was like a 54-year-old guy learning low code for
yeah,
the first time, and he was excellent. I mean, he
yeah.
tutored college level, university level maths for
Wow,
fun on the weekend, kind
wow,
of thing.
wow, oh, wow. Very interesting.
So he was a genius, and he took to it
Yeah,
really well. And I mean, in my position here at Mendix, I meet people every day who
yeah,
surprise me. I mean,
yeah.
the first week I was part of Mendix, they had me interview one of the MVPs, who's Hannah Nabil. And
Mhm.
it was so strange to me to meet this soccer mom from Egypt who
Yeah, yeah.
raised the kid for 10 years and then decided to learn Mendix. She used her husband's Mendix accounts to like learn.
Nice,
She didn't have her
nice.
like she didn't have a corporate email address she could use.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
from that, she's like one of the most successful. And she's worked on projects in Dubai and
Wow.
the Dubai municipality and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So it's like
Wow.
you meet people of like extraordinary backgrounds and
Yeah,
stories.
yeah, yeah,
It's,
yeah.
it's eye-opening sometimes.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's really, yeah, and I think that's the we find with a lot of kind of low code people, they'll always have some kind of interesting background that they've come from. Where I think I mentioned it before. I've spoken to people who were working in the hospital, as a nurse or or a pastry chef in the past, and now they're working with low code and they're successful with it. They've done really well. Um, you mentioned you when you started working with Mendix was version 4, around version 4. Obviously, it's version 10's being released soon, isn't it?
Yeah, in June.
In June, yeah.
I actually just wrote a piece. I think it's June
Ah,
or something.
yeah, yeah. I've
Yeah,
signed up to I've signed up to it, so it's yeah.
yeah.
So what I want to ask was obviously for someone who's kind of been using the platform for that long, that period, what would you say kind of in that time you've used it have been some kind of key releases that they've done that you've thought, well, we're really kind of stepping up our game as a business?
Yeah. There's a few. I mean,
Mm.
Mendix is always releasing so much that it's
Yeah.
hard to keep up with. Like
Yeah,
sometimes,
yeah, yeah,
like I work
yeah.
for the company, and it's like sometimes it's like, oh man, another release. I've got to read these notes, install the new version.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I'd say some of the stuff that was most influential for me was native mobile. I
Mm,
started using that before it was even like GA. I was on the beta testing it out.
mm.
And similarly, seven and eight were massive changes. Nine has gone into um, sort of an optimization stage, and 10 is even more like that.
Yeah.
We have so much amazing functionality, and now we're focusing on making it better for the people who use it, basically.
Mm,
We're
mhm.
making like quality of life improvements every day now.
Yeah, yeah,
Like some of the stuff you've been wanting for years is now about to come out in the new
yeah.
version.
Oh, that's great. That's really good.
I'm not going to say anything. I don't know what I'm
Yeah,
allowed
yeah,
to
yeah.
say.
You're probably not allowed to say anything. I was going to ask if there's anything you can share, but I don't think you're probably allowed.
Yeah. No,
Okay, that's great.
yeah, so native mobile was where I really found my feet because I was a JavaScript nerd basically, and
Mm,
the fact that I could use JavaScript in a real way was
yeah,
like, oh wow.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Like, so
yeah.
it's I jumped onto that as early as I could, and yeah, I think for me, one of the things that had the biggest impact was when Mendix released like native REST capabilities. Before you had to
Mm,
use a module that used like
yeah.
Java actions, but when Mendix released their native REST capabilities, I had to migrate like 400 web services from the old way to the new way.
Wow. Yeah, yeah,
And
wow.
having to do that so much, yeah, that definitely impacted my life. But I'm now a REST expert
Yeah,
because of
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's amazing. That's great. And in your kind of, because obviously you're sharing content and things like that, and you're obviously trying to reach number of people when you kind of do your blogs and blog posts and videos. Do you get much people from traditional background or traditional experience who are kind of challenging something you said or
Yeah,
posted?
in my last video, actually, I'm not sure because I posted it on LinkedIn, so I'm not sure if the comment was on LinkedIn
Okay.
or on YouTube itself. But
Yeah.
someone put a comment somewhere, and it was like, because the video was about Git, because
Yeah.
we've migrated from Team Server to Git,
Mm,
and someone commented like, yeah, it's a great video, but you didn't mention like the git ignore file, and you're actually committing your entire deployment directory, which is like unnecessary, it's bulky.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, but I was just showing people how to connect it to Git. Like, you're an
Yeah.
expert, you can figure that
Yeah,
out.
yeah, 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 exactly. Yeah. Is
Yeah.
that something you come across like commonly from other people who kind of um we call them like, people who just hate on low code, not really,
Yeah, yeah.
don't think it's in development.
Well, yeah, we call them high coders in Mendix.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
well, like anyone who does traditional sort of
yeah,
text-based coding is a high
yeah,
coder, basically,
yeah,
and we are low coders.
yeah.
And it's like we find that they have different personas. We have personas for each of them. I
Yeah, yeah,
might
yeah.
share them. I don't know if that's confidential.
Yeah.
But we break them up into like different categories, and there's different ways to deal with them and all that kind of stuff. But
Mm,
I find that definitely the resistance is lessening.
mm,
People are more open to it now,
yeah,
especially I think because the low code teams in a company generally just seem like they're having a great chill time, and the
yeah,
other guys are
yeah.
super stressed all the
Yeah,
time.
yeah, yeah.
I think we're just the grass is greener here.
Yeah, yeah. And is Mendix doing kind of any initiatives to kind of get people from traditional high coders to kind of learn Mendix?
um, I don't think we're actively like recruiting like
Mm,
people from other backgrounds.
yeah.
I think we're more interested in people who want to join and who are
Mm,
interested to join. You
yeah,
know, like
yeah, yeah.
um, the gate is open to everyone.
Mm,
We're not trying to push people through it. You
yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Fair enough. Yeah, and I think
especially
yeah. Sorry,
um,
go on.
especially recently, we've been doing a lot of market research, and we're finding that, I mean, we have in every company there's a Mendix team and an OutSystems team,
Yeah, yeah.
and there's WordPress guys there as well, and there's might
Mm,
even be Squarespace apps or whatever. You
yeah,
know,
yeah,
like there's
yeah,
levels to it,
yeah.
and we're finding our niche, and we're not trying to push anyone out of their
Mm,
spot.
mm.
We're trying to all coexist like with the
I think
power.
there's enough space for everybody, isn't there? Definitely.
Yeah, it's different. It's different fields, right? I mean, like Power BI is something different to Mendix. You know, you wouldn't use
Mm,
them for the same thing, so we can exist all together.
yeah, 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 yeah.
And we need the guys who do the hardcore stuff as well, right? Because
Mm, mm.
we need them to push the low code platforms, and we need
Yeah,
them sometimes when there's like a complex thing. We
yeah.
tap that guy on the shoulder,
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
the team needs you.
Yeah, yeah. And with on the Mendix side, obviously, do you find the citizen development kind of aspect works quite well where it's, I think some people say, well, a citizen developer is good to a certain level, and then you need someone who's kind of got a lot of experience. Do you think that's the case, or?
Well, I think in every team there should be both, right? To make a good team, you should have people being trained and you should have people training, so that the people at the bottom are moving up and the people at the top are looking over them as they do, and making sure they don't make mistakes.
Mm.
Um, there's actually the solutions kit coming out soon, which is basically a way to protect juniors from messing up in projects.
Oh, okay, that's
Like you,
good.
you can roll out changes, but some changes are like protected in that, like they can't mess with core features basically.
Mm.
And then it's about safeguarding people,
Yeah.
and I think when I was working, especially, I had a lot of great mentors who were more knowledgeable than me and more
Mm.
than I could ever be, probably. And they
Mm.
all sort of guided me and taught me. So I think you have to have both. You can't have a team of citizen developers because then no one's watching them.
Yeah. Of course, of course. No, that's a good answer, that one. Um, and one thing I like to just ask everyone, because we come across still, when we're kind of recruiting for clients, sometimes, if there is not enough kind of talent around with the low code skill, there will be an option to maybe potentially hire someone from a .NET background, or Java background, or
Adam.
any kind of yeah, exactly. Um, what's your kind of message to the haters of low code, and what message would, if you were having a conversation with someone who is against low code, what would be your message?
um, don't hate it till you try it, definitely. Don't hate on it if you've never tried.
Yeah.
The one thing I always get um, pushed at is they always say, oh, it locks you in, you have to use their pre-made elements or whatever. But I mean, Mendix, and I'm sure most other platforms do this now, we're open to modification. Like you can extend the application in any way you want. You can put in whatever code you want. It's like you can create your own elements. Don't think that just because we've made it pre-made that you can't modify it or you can't make your own stuff from scratch. So I think the people always step away because they're like, I can't touch it. It's a black box, but it's not really. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get people interested in making it their own.
Yeah.
It's not just like the blue bar, always all the apps look the same. You can just make it look your own way. We've
Yeah.
we've made
Yeah.
sure that styling and front end is very competitive in the industry, and like it's the same with any other aspect of the platform.
Yeah. So if they really do want to touch the code, they can.
Yeah, they can.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
mean, if they really want to, they can go into the SDK and they can
Yeah.
do things that you can't even do inside of the
Mm.
platform. That you
Mm.
can you can edit the raw code basically.
Mm.
So we try and teach people that it's not like a ball and chain. Basically, it's
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
it's not like a one flavor fits all solution. It's you have
Yeah.
to just
Yeah.
put in the work to make it your own.
Yeah. That's great. That's very good. Just a final kind of question. I think you've had quite a cool journey. I think it's from kind of mainly because obviously I think even though you said there were some Mendix customers in South Africa, obviously compared to Europe, it probably would have been very different. And then you've
Yeah.
moved over here. So you've had quite an interesting journey so far. Do you kind of have any, what's your kind of future aspirations, plans, or goals that you'd like to achieve in the present or future?
I guess one day I want to have my own sort of dev house, company, contractor
Mm.
based
Mm.
thing. Yeah, but that's down the road. I don't feel like I'm
Yeah,
there yet.
yeah.
I've still got some stuff to learn,
Mm.
and who better to learn it than straight from the masters at Mendix, you know?
Yeah. Of course, of course, of course. That's
Yeah.
great. And yeah,
Yeah.
your videos are great as well. So
Yeah, I mean, it was sort of an accident that I ended up making them anyway. Like
yeah,
I,
yeah.
I applied to be a expert services, which is a consulting role.
Ah, okay.
And they're like, you're great for this other thing. And then I
Yeah.
was like, okay, I get
Yeah. No,
yeah,
that's amazing.
yeah.
So yeah, I'll definitely when I post it, I'll put the links to your YouTube page as well. So people
Well,
can
it's
check
not my
out
page. It's
the
the
Mendix page, but even your LinkedIn, because you're the one posting the videos
yeah.
as well. So, I think they're quite, for anyone, who's kind of looking at it, it's really helpful to see the content you're posting. So,
Oh, thank
appreciate you taking the time to speak.
I
It'll be
appreciate
good to,
you rescheduling because I was so jet lagged.
no, that's fine. These things happen. It's all good. And it'd be good to obviously see your journey, how you kind of continue, and maybe we'll speak again in the future.
Yeah,
Um,
next season.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, we could. I think my plan is to eventually go from these kind of video ones to face.
Yeah,
But sometimes the logistics of it, especially because our guests are all over the world. I'm
yeah.
not really in a position to just get on the plane and fly to everybody with I don't think my kids and my wife will be very happy about it.
No, it's definitely difficult because when I joined, one of the things I mentioned is I started interviewing like MVPs,
Yeah,
and man, like sitting across from someone and like asking, it's
yeah,
difficult. Like it's
yeah, it is.
difficult.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
had to stop doing it just because I couldn't.
yeah,
Like it's not my thing. So I
yeah,
respect like what
yeah,
you're doing on the other side. Like I know you have
yeah.
like 10 screens going and no.
Yeah. It is it's definitely something that I think even when I started off, it's nerve-wracking. You don't want to do it. And even when we started doing it, we thought, oh, nobody's going to listen. There's going to be no interest in it. We'll probably do one season, it'll be done. But then it's really like similar to the videos you do, especially like with juniors and starters and things like that. We do get a lot of really good feedback, so that's what's kind of pushed us to keep it going. A lot of people, we can see in the stats that people are listening, so it makes sense. And we're quite excited to kind of expand it this year and speak to kind of all platforms, small or big, to kind of just
Yeah, well, I googled where to listen to you guys when you mentioned that you
mm,
like me to talk, and it's
yeah,
like I found
yeah,
it everywhere. I was like Apple, like,
yeah. I've put it everywhere. Yeah,
Spotify. It was you have
I've
your
even put it on our website.
yeah, you have its own page. Yeah, it
Yeah.
was very. I was like, wow, this is a big deal. I have to do this.
I know, I really appreciate it. So thanks for your time, Ryan.
No, it was wonderful. Thank you for having me, Faraz. It was great.
No problem. Thank you.
All right, cheers.